Life can be so challenging. Where can you go to get divine clarification, help, and advice? Well, may I introduce Natasha Venter, medium, coach, and direct connection to your guides and angels. Through her podcast, Life Clarifications, Natasha will help you navigate through and create your life's destiny. My name is Kevin McDonald, co-host of this podcast, and I've seen her work and know that through her incredible talent, you can be changed forever. So let's start another episode of Life Clarifications with Natasha. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Life Clarifications with that one over there. That's her. That's her, Your Honor. She's the one who did it, not me. I just wanted to compliment you again on Monday. For those of you who don't know, and it'll be on the podcast later tonight or tomorrow, we did a podcast with Life Between Lives with Regan Forston, and he brought a guest with him, and that guest's name was Tony. And Tony turned out to be a really cool guy that has been up and down and in and out, lived in cars, lived in mansions, and all that kind of stuff. And so Natasha got a chance to work with him and read him a little bit. And I got to tell you, I honestly thought, okay, now what she's saying, I don't know if it makes sense or not, but his reaction to what you were saying made far more sense than anything that I would have thought, because it happened so effortlessly. It was so easy. It wasn't like you were saying, okay, does your girlfriend's name start with a T or something? It wasn't like that. It was just effortlessly done, and I congratulate you for it. You're actually good. How about that? Who knew?
Well, that's the thing is that, people meet me and they kind of go, oh, it's Natasha. But, it's like there's much behind this door, behind this eyes, and I'm so grateful that you saw that in me, because that's not about what I do. That's not why I do this, is about ego or anything like that. It's to be very supportive. And I'm so grateful he was trusting me to go there. And that did help me connect a little bit easier. And he's just one of those that it's like, I hope he actually calls me for a private session, because there's more behind that. And I wasn't willing to give that because of being on air, that there's what I can say that might help someone else, as well as definitely him, because it's about him. But at the same time, though, there's this dance of knowing that there's more, that it shouldn't be on air. Even if he says it's okay, it's not meant to be. And that's the wisdom that comes. And I'm just so grateful that he was here. And you can find the same video on my YouTube page, which is Natasha Venter. So if those are watching on Facebook, you can go to my YouTube page and you can find it, or you can actually find it here. It's just, scroll down a little bit and you'll find Monday's video. And so with that you can hear what's going on, because it's about 15 minutes into the episode.
Right. Right. And Tony is a very unique kind of used car kind of sales guy, kind of fellow who deals with people like the cartels in Mexico and some folks that have got money. How they got that money may be a little unscrupulous, but who knows? But that's not one of those things that you want to bring up. And you don't want to say, Carlos at the cartel says that you should come back. And no, you don't want to do that, because they may show up at your house one day.
And that's the thing is that many of us, when I do a session with them, that it's not about the exact thing that's happening. It's the continuous story that keeps going on in somebody's life. It doesn't matter what the exact picture is that you step on at that moment of what you're doing in life. Like me, this is my picture being on YouTube and Facebook right now. This is my picture that I'm stepping on right now. So it may not be that this exact moment that I'm talking about with someone. Yes, it's a good example to say, this is where you might have wanted to chose different or that kind of thing. But we as humans, we have a pattern. And many times that same pattern creates a same scenario pictures that are going on. And that's what, like I always tell people, and I've said this when I'm doing fairs, when I'm doing different things, that I am not one to give you a fish, the metaphorical saying, you don't just give somebody a fish, you teach them how to fish, then they can fish for their life forever. Well, that's my style of doing sessions, is that it's about the bigger picture. What is going on in someone's life that I can help them go, wait a minute, now I can go somewhere. Because going this way was not necessarily, it was going to be hitting the brick walls. But if I just detour myself just a little bit, either way, then I can maybe get somewhere. And that's what I love so much. I've seen so many people do that pivot, and it's so rewarding for me, because it is about that self-perception. It is about the self-worth of what we're doing. And there's so many little secretive things that pop up. Like many times I tell somebody something, and they kind of look at me like, that's not me. And I said, this is not the one I'm talking to. I'm not talking to the one that's sitting across. I'm talking to the one that lays in bed with you. That negative nanny that whispers in your ear, or the one that sits with you when you're driving down the road and your mind is wandering. That's the one I'm talking to. And so with that it kind of gives a definition more of, it's not always about what we're seeing right in the mirror. It's about that little secretive thing that goes, in our ear, that I like to say, yeah, we can take care of that. Just get off.
Well, now that we've established that what you do is real, it brings up a very interesting question for me, which was when I approached you, and I can't remember exactly how it happened, but I approached you and said, well, why don't we do a podcast, and why don't you come on my podcast, and then we'll create something. And if you are, so what was your initial reaction to that? Because was it like, could you what did you feel like? Was it going to be worth doing? Is this project going? What was going through your mind?
The very first time I talked to you, I was walking around my backyard.
Uh-huh. That's right.
And I was getting so excited because there was something about us, that there's that inner, like, this is actually going to happen feeling, that actually I was wandering around, and I stepped in my dog's poop. And it brought me right back to reality.
There was a
I
metaphor
still
for you.
I know, isn't it about just keeping life going? But there was that connection that we had. We talked for almost an hour, and it felt so right. I can only say it felt right. And then I did a podcast with you that lasted about an hour, and
Yeah.
I don't really remember what was said on that, but I just know that it was right. It was in the flow. And then we didn't talk. Oh, and then you asked me to be on your radio the the last Sunday of the month.
Correct.
Because I was on the second or the third Sunday with Martha, and then I was on with you, which is the same radio station. You just do the fourth Sunday of the month.
Right.
If that's confusing for everybody, I apologize. And with that, I did that, and then we didn't talk for a little while. And then all of a sudden that I got that hint that, and I knew it was your Sunday to listen to the radio show. It was about maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks. No, it was months. It was about 3 months later.
Show. Was it 3 months? Was it that long?
It was about well, our first show was April. And then I think I was on May. And then it was like in the late July that we talked.
Okay.
And then I got on the radio station, and I ended up being kind of a co-guest with Regan.
Yeah, you just kind of weaseled your way right in there.
With politeness, I hope. And then,
absolutely.
And then I sent you an email saying that it was a gift to be on with you guys. And then we ended up talking, and then that's when I was sitting there. It was after my ankle. So I was dealing with my ankle, so that's why it was the end of July or something like that.
That's right.
And then we talked, and then we ended up with the busy summer of August and September. We were on the end of September.
So let me ask you though, because because you're psychic and stuff, and you're talking to the other side. What did you have? Why were you going to invest all that much time with this show with me? What were you being told, if anything?
I have been getting that internal calling, that internal voice since I basically flipped over my boxes and went to Doreen Virtues in 2000, or it was 2006 that I went to see Doreen Virtue and did her angel therapy practitioner course. And then the next summer, I did her mediumship. And when she asked the question, who wants to be, and it was us holding the microphone, who wants to be someone who can stand on a stage and do this work? And I rose my hand because that was just that. I mean, I was raising my hand before I even knew I was raising my hand. I mean, it was that so much my soul and my being wanted to do this work. So I've been working my way towards this. And it's just been in the last 2, 3, 4 years that I've actually been saying, I need to do this. I want to do this. And I tried to do YouTube or Facebook Live a couple times and it worked, but me and technology weren't in alignment yet. That's when I really started saying, I can't do this alone. I need someone else. And it took me about a year before you came into my life.
Well, and you clearly weren't ready for a highly developed professional such as myself to be. I'm kidding.
I know you are.
But see, then that's how, from my standpoint, that's how this whole thing just flows. Is that I knew that you, Martha said, we have a new advertiser, a contributor. She's a psychic medium. Her name is Natasha. So I looked up your website and stuff, and I said, that's cool, and that's good. I'm glad she's helping you advertise, and also is going to work with you a little bit. And she wasn't sure. She originally was, well, I'll have her on because I want to see. And to be honest, to be fair, Martha's very particular, and so it stands because you just celebrated your year with her.
I did.
And that is really cool all by itself, because you've been doing your work with her, and she appreciates it, she gets it, she understands that what you do is real, and that you are real, and so we've been doing it for about 6 months, and it's been really good. The only thing that I want is more people to call and get advice from you. That would be the deal sealer.
And that's where my calling is. This is part of my calling is to be supportive, yet helping someone get from here to here, or
Right.
here to here, or here to here. It doesn't matter where, but it's getting out of where we're feeling stuck, or that worry, or that should I do this or should I do that? And yes, I sometimes give those answers yes or no, but at the same time, there's a reason why we're asking the questions. So how can I help you process that navigation towards yourself? I got a CD, or I used to give CDs to my sessions, and I had an email that 5 years later said, I still listen to the CD, and today it still helps me as much as it helped me 5 years ago. And so with that, the tools that I love to give and support somebody with are those ones to say, I can, I will be my light. You know, there's still those things that happen. Like I just had a heater guy at my house because there's a high pitched whine in when my heater goes off, and it's driving me bonkers. There's still life that happens, even to us that are magical. But yet at the same time, though, you know, when you know how to work the magic, you know how to have things navigate to your better grade or good. And that's that process of how can I help myself get there? How can I trust myself enough to be vulnerable enough to get there? And whatever there is, sometimes it's just being happier.
What was it like doing your first reading?
I've been doing readings my whole life, actually.
Oh,
Uh, in
okay.
other
Let me
in
ask.
other words, I was helping friends through troubled times and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
when I first did my first paid session, it was a little, I don't want to call it daunting, but it was the first process of really trusting myself. I did sessions in Enduring Virtue, and I did fine. It wasn't about those kinds of sessions. It was actually being in a fair doing the sessions, and it was interesting to say, you know what, I got it.
Was it as big a surprise to you as it was to your client, or did it just flow with you? Because I know that it's not like somebody has got a script in front of your eyes and is reading all this stuff for you. This is part of your feeling, part of your intuition.
Many
And
times the language is coming out of my mouth at the same time I'm getting the download. There's no thought to there's no filter to it. Many times it's not, it's just, it comes. You know,
as well it should be. It shouldn't be forced. It should just be natural. And by the way, the big question is coming. Have you ever read for your husband? But we'll talk about that later. Because I can just imagine him going, "Oh God, not again." Uh, you just need to leave me alone.
there was a time when, especially after he got sober, he said that he was with his golfing friends, and he actually said this as he was saying the conversation. He says, "Yeah, my wife's more right than wrong." She's usually right. I go, "You actually, can I write that down?"
Oh, he can't admit that.
He can't admit that, but he did actually tell me. It was funny. I'm not out to be right. I'm not out to be right, though. That's not
No.
about my story. It's about being, helping someone get from point A to point B, and that's the rightness that I try to be, because I don't want to give people false information. I don't. That's why I try to give as clean as information as I can from my guides, their guides, through, and that's where I really work on that integrity. And actually, integrity is not hard for, it's not a work for me. That's who I am. But it's that being a witness of myself. That's what I have as a go-to, is I'm a witness to myself. So when I'm doing something that's not, wait a minute, I'm sorry, I wasn't in my right place to say that, and I apologize. So I don't want to say back up, but I try to do different. And I do call it out when I do notice that about myself, because it is about the rightness when I'm holding this integrity.
So when you're talking to your guides and it's Wednesday at 4 or 3:45 and you're not really feeling it, do they say no? You got to go do this now, or do they don't have any any say in what you do as far as that goes? I guess what I'm asking is, do they think that this is going to work and that you're doing the right thing?
And an example of that is that one day, it was a couple weeks ago, when I got off a Zoom meeting with my school work, and then I got on here, and that was really the only, well, I've asked before, but that was really the only time, should I cancel today? And I heard no. Show them who you are. Show how to navigate through when life punches you. And that was one of the, then I step back and I say, I trust.
That
I
was an
trust.
important day. That really was an important day for people that are listening, because people like you, everybody assumes that everything is puppies and flowers and petals and all that kind of stuff, and it's not. You are a human being in this, having the same trials and tribulations that everybody else does. And but you but I got to tell you a story in a minute. You have an ability to rise above that and to understand a little bit more about it and stuff like that.
And that's the walk of being a witness of myself that I do, and I'm grateful for that tool because it gives me the chance to say, okay, why is this happening to me? Where am I going with this? What can I do about this? Where should I be with this? It's about the being in the moment phase. And I have a coworker who sometimes watches me and she goes, God, it would be so magical to have your tools. And I go, yeah, unless you're doing dimensional walk into different dimensions and you're driving down the road and all of a sudden there's a person walking in the street in front of you and you don't see them because they're in a different dimension that you are in. And all of a sudden you have to put on your brakes and they go, oh, I go, yeah. That's when I get upset with my team to say, you need to make sure I'm safe to everyone around me. Because it is about, I do more work than anybody can understand with my different layers that I am. It, it's it, Sometimes it's good to be kind of naive. You know,
Well, yeah, it can be, I suppose. Um,
yeah,
but I
I mean,
did.
it would be easier to come home from my day job and just do campus safety, teach kids how to read, support kids with reading, and then come home and cook dinner and sit on the front of the couch and watch TV and love my husband.
I have a quick story I have to tell you, and I know that you'll appreciate this.
Yes, please do.
Yesterday I was doing the show with Coriel, and we were talking about how to lift yourself up and how to be positive. And I highly recommend somebody you can go listen to that. But in any event, we were talking about that, and I was saying, I just don't have bad days really. I really only have really good days, pretty much. And so we finished the podcast and it was fine. And I decided I didn't want to lay down for an hour or so. And so because I got up early, so I did. And when I got up, I came back to my computer and somebody said, and there was a message from somebody that said, I haven't got the link yet. Are we doing the podcast today or not? On my schedule, I had nobody. I looked on my email. I had nobody. I had no earthly idea that I was supposed to do a podcast with somebody yesterday. And then the phone rings, and the phone rings, and it's somebody I didn't pick up, but it's somebody that I haven't talked to in a long time and don't care to. They have energy that just doesn't suit me, and so then that drove me into a really bad mood, and so I'm wandering around life going, oh, shit. And so I'm standing at the convenience store and gonna pick something up, and I get out of my car and I'm standing there and I hear somebody say, see, you ain't perfect either, pal. I said, are you guys trying to show me something or what? And they were that nobody's perfect and that we all have our good days and our bad days and stuff like that. But and you do too, but you have a way of working so you can work out from underneath them.
Yes, and that's the thing is that I've really observed myself. I don't handle change very well. I handle the idea of change after I go, okay. That it's that first initial, like our elementary school or our school districts taught. We've been doing the hybrid learning now since February.
Long time.
Long
I
time.
think even farther than February.
No, we were talking about it in January, so it was February.
Oh, okay.
So with that, we started talking January, and so we were back, I think, the first week of February. So we've been hybrid for quite a while, and we were actually there during the month of October too. So we've been doing what some school districts haven't done. Well, now they're talking about coming back full board, and there's a part of me that says I kind of like my Wednesday. But yet then I'm not going, okay, I get it. The bigger picture here. I get it. The bigger picture. At first I'm like, my little kid in me was kind of whiny. I like being able to get out of bed and have my midweek, slower week. But it's like, no, it's okay. I get it. There's going to be some parents who really want their sixth graders to have the last months with the group that they've been with. There's teachers who really would love to have their full class. And actually, I can see that, we've had enough practice with the kids having hybrid where they've learned how to sit in the classroom. They've They've learned how to be acknowledging of their fellow classmates. That sometimes in the past kids would just scream and yell and run around the room. Well, they've had maybe 7-10 kids in their classroom now, to where they've learned how to be conscious of their fellow classmates, which is part of learning to be with other people. We have to learn to be with other people. We're responsible for the energy we bring into the room. So however that is taught, it's a gift for us to learn. Well, now it might be a benefit for them to learn how to be in a group of 20 kids. And in some classrooms, it's going to be 30 something kids, And so there's going to be some, because, the districts have been going through cuts too, because the state cut, you know, money and stuff like that. So things have been kind of different going through this year. But now we're going to need to have kids come back, which means more people need to be assistants. And, that kind of thing. And so, like, we're talking about having the kids come back into the lunchroom. They would have to be 3 feet apart. But that means one of us is off the playground, which means I'm going to be on the playground by myself, or maybe one other person that's kind of a para that can alternate a little bit. But if she's called into another classroom, she can't help me. And so it's going to be what it's going to be. But, there's going to be these things that just, not all the pieces of the puzzle can fit together at one time. And that's what I believe about life. Life is like a puzzle piece. Sometimes you can't find the piece that you want to fit in the moment that you want it. And so you kind of have to build your life around that one piece until you do find that one puzzle piece to get. And sometimes we just got to keep moving forward to get there. And sometimes that first initial change is not easy, and that's okay. Like I did that one day, it's like, okay, take a moment. You gracefully took a moment and let me light my candles to process. So it is about taking that moment after we hear the ugh or the oh yeah, doesn't matter, and go, okay, let me see what the bigger picture is here to navigate this.
I'm just struck by what you said about people returning to the classroom, and that how can any teacher teach 30 children that are 8 years old all at the same time? That sounds like some sort of a nightmare scenario. How do they do these poor people? they need psychoanalysis after every day. I know. I know that there's some of us that have to be politically correct and are not able to ask such questions. So we'll move on.
But that's another reason why I'm in school, though. I have an understanding that I am there to support the teachers as well as the students.
Boy, no kidding, because they I could not imagine having 30 children. Now
I say that with love. I say that with love because we all have a different journey that we chose to sign up for, and I just sometimes I walk by saying you're doing the better that you can, and I honor you for what you're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I was a Cubmaster. Did I ever tell you that I was a Cubmaster for the local Cub Scout when my kids were there? And
one time
we had 75 kids, but we had parents there, so it wasn't like I wasn't me against 75. It was so that was, I just couldn't imagine. I can't even imagine it. But that being said, you do what you got to do. So when are you going back to school? Have you figured it out yet? Or they said
no, they haven't said anything yet. I'm kind of getting it will be like the second or the third or fourth, third week of April, maybe third or fourth. It won't be because we're in spring break the first full week. So the second week, and they got to give us, I think, 12 days. So of notice. So it might be like the second week or the third week before they really get their thing together, because they just notified the teachers yesterday.
Then you've only got May and part of June. And then you get the summer, and then we'll see. Hopefully COVID will have gone away by then, and then everybody can go back to normal. But at one point or another, you're going to have to fly. And fly, not necessarily completely fly away, but you're going to have to restructure because your business is going to get busier as you help people and more people recognize that you can help them. So you're going to have to reorganize yourself.
That's that part of the trust. I'm going to have to trust that at the right time, I'm going to say the right thing, and I'm going to do the right thing that's more right. And even if it's an oops, I should have said the and something else, it's going to be what it's going to be. And I'm going to trust. I'm just going to trust. And that's the thing is that, as we walk and as we do, and I'm not too sure who's listening, but, we're all in these crossroads of how can I trust this process that I'm going through right now? That some of us got pretty burned last year, a year and a month ago. Some of us got pretty burned in our lives. And how can I navigate going forward, even though how should I trust? How can I trust what's going on? Because we're not always in the better place that we are, to make decisions. And many of us kind of, oh, how do I put this with love? Many of us got into dark places during this whole time. And now we're going to have to kind of come out and find a job and be somewhat normal.
Whatever normal is, because normal is
Whatever
going to
normal
be different than it used to
it
be.
is. And so with that, sometimes there's going to be parts of this that we're going to have to start saying to ourselves, yeah, I guess I was kind of human at certain moments of this time in my life. And how can I move myself forward? I know for some of us, it was a better time in our lives. Like for me, COVID was a time when I was expanding. I was redoing my website. I got in touch with you, Kevin. I started this podcast. I got in with Regan, and we did that podcast. The YouTube podcast, whatever you want to call it, on Mondays. And so with that there's this been expansion for me. Sorry. And so with that as we're walking and as we're doing things, that it depended on our perception and how could we do that. Many of us did go into some dark places, and my love is with you, because it's not an easy place to be.
That's true. That's true. I feel sorry for people that when you think about, well, I think about in my own situation, if it hadn't turned out exactly the way that, I know this is some kind of coincidence, but if it didn't turn out exactly how it turned out, I'd be in a world of poop. I would have not just stepped in it, I would be rolling around in it because of COVID and possibly getting sick and not having vaccines and all that stuff. So I can't imagine what it's like for folks that are having to go out and do this every day and coexist with folks with the risk of getting sick and all of that. It's been tough for folks, and
Yeah.
they look at their bank accounts, and their bank account is dwindling, and it
That's why
makes it
I'm
tough.
like, I mean, that's why I'm here. This is a great time to ask questions. If somebody's watching and they don't have a few dollars, it's like put the question into the chat. Or sometimes I get notification that somebody made a comment afterwards, and I can maybe reply then. So there's those things that as we walk, or message me, on my website, or something that you can even message in through Facebook. There's these moments where, if you're watching this and you feel like you need to ask a question, go ahead and ask, because this is a moment to get something for free. It's kind of like a radio, it's one of those things. My calling is to be here to support someone going through something. And even if it's a happy day, yet that on either side of that happy day, there was kind of like a moment. Because I
Okay,
know
well,
for Kevin, for you, Kevin, that if you didn't hurt your arms, you still would have been driving the bus during this COVID.
correct. Unless I gotten out of it, but you see, if I'd gotten out of it, I could have not worked but I would have had no income. So you can't go on disability with because of COVID. So you can not work, but then you'd have no, like money. And then because of where I moved to, it's a lot cheaper, and I'm able to live just perfectly fine. Thank you very much. And so for me, it's worked out just fine. And the whole reason that it's done that is so that I can do this and support people like you, and to support you. That's what I was told to do.
And I know that when I hooked up with you, I was told to kind of help support you, to shift you to what you were doing.
Oh, so now it comes out to shift to what I was doing, what by
Instead of doing podcasts, that you were supposed to get broader. You were supposed to get on YouTube. You're supposed to do more. You were supposed to have a platform bigger.
That's why you were such a pain.
I was a pain. Oh, the month of August, I was such a pain.
Well, but when you think about what we were able to accomplish, and to where we were to where we are, able to do video and audio and put it on yours and mine and stuff, so that it can get out there more. I can't imagine not doing with the way we're doing it now. And I guess now that I think about it, doggone it, you did it. That was your fault.
You went along for the ride. But
I
that's
did.
the thing is that it's amazing how people in our lives, if we really kind of navigate with it, and I'm calling it navigating because it's just like a ship in the water. Sometimes you have to go through those skinny canals, and you need your co-person, on either side of the helms. Is it the helm at the front? The
Yep.
helms, and you're the captain, but yet at the same time, though, without these guys doing and girls doing the look around, you wouldn't get through that canal. And so that's life. Is that we can't do life by ourselves. It's really impossible. That's where friends come in. Good friends come in. That's where good coworkers come in. That's where, just having good conversations with someone. Sometimes that can get us somewhere. But there's sometimes it's like I'm reading a book right now and there's some kind of like little teasing that's going on with a character. And it's like, oh no, maybe that teasing was pushing that person a little bit out of their comfort zone to get them to move forward. And so sometimes life happens to get us pushed a little bit out of our comfort zone so that we can, i.e., me bugging you so much, that it was but when we get there, it's okay. Just like you pushed me a little bit to get into this. Well, it just wasn't the right day the first time you did it, but after those, I was like, okay, let's go. It's that moments of how can we navigate to move forward, and life is opening up right now for us. It's really opening up for us, and we're in this dance of where can I go, and we have to think out of the box because we're not in a normal box anymore. I light a candle, and I haven't done it lately, and I need to start doing it daily now again. I have a candle votive that is just for magic. Let me create magic in my life. Let magic come to me. Let me be the spark that I am. Let me be who I am. And I light that candle with intention of just having wonderful magic in my life. If it's wicked magic, if it's just magic of the sparkle of a rainbow, if it's just magic of just a light bulb turning on, it doesn't matter what that magic is, but it's the magic that can be created in the sparkle of life. And when we do things like that, it's amazing how the perspective starts shifting to where, oh, wait a minute, maybe I might get something. Maybe I will get something. You just never know where that door is to be. And you never know what's going to happen next if we keep our ears and radar, metaphorical radar, up to say, okay, I need to go over here. Wait a minute. Nope. It's that perspective of just keep trying. You just never know.
All right, so let me ask you then. I believe, and I think you've verified for me, that we all get talked to by the other side. We all have teams of guys who work with us and help us and talk to us. And show us the doors. How do you get yourself to open the door?
It's a combination of vulnerability and trust with salt and pepper of love. That vulnerability. People think that if I that like picking up a phone and asking somebody a question that you thought, oh, I can't ask that person a question. That vulnerability of saying, okay, I'm going to tell somebody that, yeah, and I'm picking up the phone. So that vulnerability, even if there's a negative context to it, that vulnerability is a tool that gives us strengths to do things. And so when we can be more vulnerable with people and we can navigate that that navigation of vulnerability is such a strength. It's amazing. Like for me, just I had the radio or the guy come to do my heater because of the high wine. And the first guy, he was great. The second guy, he just had a different feel to him. And I said that I had to go on to YouTube here at 4 o'clock. And so, if we can do whatever we need to do, because I can't help you after that. I don't mind you being in the house, but I just can't help you. And he kind of went like, what are you doing? And so I was vulnerable and I told him I'm a medium intuitive and I do this to help people. And that vulnerability to come out, there was no intention behind it. There was no want or desires behind it. It was more just me being vulnerable and saying who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And that vulnerability now gives me more of a stronger voice to be here. Because I practiced being vulnerable, which means I'm going to practice being more vulnerable with what I'm saying, which means being more truthful, being more trustful. When I can trust myself that I am worthy of being here and saying these things, so that vulnerability to say I can, and then the trust to say, oh, I do have something to say, and that love for myself to say, you know what, I've got it. I've got it. And I know that I've witnessed several people in my life that that have done this. And it's been magical to see them. I've just been it's been I have one person at a coworker at my work that I helped with the room and doing things like that. And then one year she decided to do it by herself. And I was like, you did it. It was like because she was vulnerable enough to say, I can trust myself. I know I'm not a great organizer, but yet I know I can organize myself. So she was vulnerable with herself. She loved herself and she trusted herself that even though she might have wanted to pick up the phone a couple times, but she worked through that process to do most of the work herself. And she found she got to the other side. And it was so rewarding to see her do that, because that was one of her struggles, was to just be that next step for herself. And she's gotten there. And I know that there's different reasons why she did that too, but at the same time though, that one place to go, that vulnerability, and I just can say congratulations to those that do trust that vulnerability to be a little bit less I can't do it. I don't want to be. I'm too perfect. I can't be vulnerable. I can't do things wrong. That's only going to stop us from moving forward. But if you say, "Oh, I might do this a little bit wrong, but you know what? That's okay because I'm doing more right than wrong."
So if you are talking about breaking through that vulnerability and doing it anyway, if something scares you but you feel it's right, do it anyway. Is that what you're saying?
Put at least one foot in.
And then one foot out and turn it around and like
Then
what's the name of that song? You work with kids, you know the name of that song.
yeah, do the hokey pokey.
That's it. That's the one.
Uh, that's the thing is though, sometimes we can't jump 2 feet. But many of us misread that feeling of excitement for fear. And that excitement that okay, this feels right. And not a lot of us haven't done things in our lives to get that. Oh, this is good. This is good. You know? kind of like we talked about the first time I talked to you, and that feeling of excitement. And by the way, our water heater went out that night. My husband was like, I hate to bring you down, but we got to go into town and get a new water heater. And we were working on the water heater until 10 o'clock. But I did it with a smile on my face because it was like, I'm on the right path. I'm on the right path. I'm on the right path. And that's the thing that feeling of just okay, okay, I can work on this. And by the way, water is about emotions. Hot water is about, my husband is a fire sign and I'm a water sign, so we have to make wonderful steam. So that was kind of that was kind of the beginning of us breaking down our old story and creating a new story of how to walk better together. And so with that, there's a lot of metaphors to that hot water tank going out.
Well, yeah. Well, plus the fact that instead of taking the attitude, oh, the water heater went on and on and on, taking negative, your husband knows how to fix a water heater. I'd have to call somebody.
It was a little bit of work. It was challenging to him. He was a little bit vulnerable and trusted himself that he can figure it out. And there was a little bit of time standing in I forget if it was Home Depot or Lowe's that we went to, but he stood there a little bit and asked some questions and got through with some of the worry. And hot water tanks are kind of straightforward, but we're on a well, so getting the water out of the hot water tank kind of wasn't easy because that crystallized where it was supposed to come out. So it was a little entertaining moving a almost full hot water tank. And but there again is that there's so many times in our lives where being a little bit vulnerable, stepping one step into something and seeing if I can do it. Now, he could have stepped one step in and said, you know what? Sorry, dear. I know this doesn't feel right to me. I don't have enough. Let's call the plumber tomorrow. And I would have said, okay. And I even told him that. I said, we don't have to get the hot water tank done tonight. There's no need to. It's like there's a way to work through things and we don't have to rush through them. Sometimes, yes, we have to give a yes or no answer right away, but that's where stepping back even for that second and taking a breath, we can go, does this feel right? And learning that feeling. Some people get that feeling when things are right or that feeling when things are wrong. Or we kind of get that old story going off in our head. And negative stories and that negative talk is negativity of the mind saying, you can't do that. Well, maybe I should say, maybe can I? Maybe I can. Let me see. Because our team, our guides will never say anything negative. Like your team saying about how when you had kind of a bad mood moment, what did they say? Did they say, nah, you got told? No, you said basically, see?
They just laughed at me. Which they do all the time because apparently I do things that make them laugh.
But it's not like laugh. It's more like you kind of did that to yourself, didn't you?
Yeah, you think you're all that in a bag of chips. Well, guess what, pal? You're just like
everybody else.
But I will tell you, as you were standing in the shower the next morning, you were very happy that you had hot water.
Yes, and actually, I tell my husband that very often when we had the shower head broke off. Like I said, we're on wells, so metals and plastics kind of deteriorate for us, and so that it broke off, and he wonderfully went into town. We didn't get what we wanted except for one shower head, and the next morning I told him, "Thank you, babe. I'm so grateful." I tell him I'm grateful quite a bit because he's willing to, for one, live with me.
Oh, I can't imagine, except if you want to teach somebody how to do video. I can't imagine that it's all that tough to live with you.
Yeah, I don't know. I challenge the perfectionist quite a bit by not being perfect.
No, nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect, but when you live with a perfectionist who's doing better, by the way, yeah, I challenge him quite a bit. On our trip to the ocean shores, there was a roundabout in the town, and he said a couple times, Natasha, get out of the roundabout. I swear I was in a vortex that weekend. It was an interesting
No,
process.
wait a minute. Were you continuing to go round and round in the roundabout?
No, not necessarily, but there was one time I pulled over and I said, "Let me right myself here," because I swear I was in kind of a vortex down there. I felt weird. I felt off. I didn't feel after my video. It kind of starting hitting me, and it was kind of interesting to do that process. But that's another story.
That's very good.
We've gotten to that lighter side instead of the crankety side. So I appreciate. I tell him a lot that I'm grateful because I am grateful. Life is about gratitude for me. Even the sunshine being today, and I went out and sat for a few minutes and just was sitting in the sun getting some vitamin D. It was like, thank you for giving me this moment, because I know after this moment, things are going to get busier. Again, and life gives me a breath, and then it gets busier again. And I'm grateful for these times when I know I can breathe.
Oh, exactly. So, by the way, if you all have just joined us or have been listening for a little bit and you want to talk to Natasha, that is entirely possible and entirely up to you. All you got to do is to go to the comment section and make a comment or ask her a question. And we've got a few minutes left before I'm going to make her go make dinner or something. And, but if you have something that you would like to say, now would be the perfect time for you to do that. So again, just go to the comment section and write a comment, and I'll put it up on the screen so that we can see it, and then we'll go from there. That would be great fun. She is very good at what she does, and she can do it remotely, obviously, because it's all just energy after all.
It is. It's that feeling like it's kind of like our cell phones that, we can't do certain things because of mobile data. Well, the mobile data is partly when we're closed off. That if we're not trusting, if we're not open to receiving the information, that sometimes if we don't have mobile data on, it's hard for me to get the information. But otherwise, it's like sending texts through the air. I can get information, and believe me, if it's on air here, it will have discernment with it. It's about that understanding that we're all in public. So I want you to know that.
And we're going to tell on you. I'm kidding. Um, we're gonna be very nice and very kind because that's what we do.
That's what we
Um,
do.
yes, indeed. So, but like I said, it's great. It's great fun. So, if somebody wants to talk to you in a private way, how do they do that?
You can reach me through angelicclarifications.com or Natasha at angelicclarifications.com. That's a good way for me to reach me. And I do get messages. If you send me a message through my email or through my website, I do get them.
Good. Well, and that's important. And I also go back to the episode last of Monday from Life Between Lives. I keep bringing that up only because it really was very spectacular.
Thank you.
You really did. And you had him going. As a matter of fact, you had him going so much that he got off the phone and he calls his friend and says, "You have got to talk to her."
Yeah.
And so that is, I think, the cleanest validation of all.
It was, and I felt it was a gift to be a witness, because it was within the first 3 sentences I said to him. He says, "Oh man, you pegged me." But that's who I am, and that's the thing is that people always say, "Boy, you can see through me, can't you?" And I go, "No, not until you give me permission." Not until you give me permission. I walk through school and I don't get a lot of messages, because can you imagine if I opened up at school what I would be hearing, seeing, and doing? And that's none of my business.
And you don't even want to go there.
I don't want to go there. I don't. It's not who I am. It's not for me to invade anything. And so with that I so want people to know that I honor their privacy.
And you have got something in your hands. I sense that you have cards in your hands,
Mhm.
and they're angelic cards.
Well, they're actually the oracle cards, but they do have angelic meanings in them.
That's why you're you and I'm me.
Well, I was looking at the angel cards too, but I there's something more that needs to be said, a deeper message here that they're doing. So I'm asking for these messages to come through.
And these messages are they specifically said, we got business, we got messages.
Hmm.
Somebody is somebody should have made a comment, but they didn't, so we still got a message for them.
Yep. And that's the thing in life. Life always gives us messages, even if we don't want them. So what I'm
We
going to
get
do is I'm just going to pick what calls to me.
free will means that we get to choose
Yep.
whether we listen or not, but
Mm.
that doesn't mean
Hawk.
the messages aren't there. Hawk, go ahead.
Hawk is about the vision, the bigger vision. If you watch a hawk, they'll stand up on the power lines. They'll stand up. They'll be up on a limb, and they're just watching. They're being a witness. So it's time for us to really pay attention to our surroundings. Pay attention to what's going on. If we're looking at what's happening right in front of us and we're looking down, it's hard for us to see what's out there, the bigger picture. Kind of like me going, okay, I may not want to go back to school full time, yet at the same time, though, for the greater good, I'm willing to walk. So instead of being here in this image, I'm here in the hawk's image. So with that, it's about omens and messages. So listen to life. See the bigger picture and what it's trying to show you. Pay attention to the songs that are on the radio when you get in. Pay attention to the animals that walk across your path. Pay attention to conversations that you may hear in the store or down the hall, or even, people that you're interacting with. Pay attention to life a little bit more, and you'll get messages on where to go.
And if you really want to blow your mind, ask yourself or ask the universe the question and then wait for the answer to show up. That will
And
just
it will
blow you away.
Yeah, and that usually will happen within 12 hours. And if not 24 hours. Sometimes it takes a little while. It depends on how many people it it interacts with. Like, let's say if somebody asks for a new job, it might take a little longer because it has to interact with different people. One person leaving the job and that kind of stuff. So that takes a little bit longer. But it's amazing how, if you want to talk with someone, how quickly someone will get a hold of you and connect with you. Now you got to ask though. Remember, it's not about asking someone to talk with you. It's about asking someone to talk with you that will help you out in your life to do the better. Because you don't want the friend to call that always brings you down. You want the friend that calls you that brings you up. And
Oh,
so
exactly.
So with that, be more specific about what you're asking, because the queen is saying that we're deserving. We're deserving to sit on the throne. We're deserving to sit on what we deserve and we're worthy of. And that's the thing about being in life, is about being worthy of what we are. So it's about being woman, fertility, feminine power, sexuality, and friendships. So remember, it's about being, you know, I'm pretty damn good, you know? But it's not about ego, it's about being empowered. It's that empoweredness of saying, you know what? I'm kind and I can love still, and I can have tough love, and I can be here. There's that wisdom that comes from being that feminine power, empowerment. And Earth came before. Earth popped out when I was shuffling. So she wants me to remind her that. So it's a physical health, grounding, and foundations. So remember to navigate, but it's okay to slow down and take a moment to touch a plant. You don't want to touch a cactus if you're down in Arizona, but touch a plant that's healthy to touch. Spend a few minutes walking from the car if you can to your next destination. Be in your being for a few moments before you get derailed going into your job. Those little moments helps. You know, it's like sometimes I'm walking across the playground and I pick up a rock, and that's part of Mother Earth. And holding that rock for a few minutes before I put him underneath the path, or underneath the um, pathway going up to a door, you know, so that kids won't get it. You know, I hold them, and I'm just grateful for a minute to have Earth with me to help ground. And good job, Veronica, for believing, because you are magical. Everyone's magical, by the way. Believe it, you are magical. It's us that stops it. So the bard is next, and the bard's about start enjoying yourself. Many of us are going in the upper atmosphere or hemisphere, we're going into spring. So spring is about the new growth. It's about being in the process of what do we want to grow for our summer growth? What have our aspirations to get to? What are we to do? But remember, it's about dancing. So if you have squirrel running in front of you, remember squirrel's about having fun at the same time doing work. It's about gathering. But if you notice that they chase each other and they have a little bit of fun in the, you know, just doing different things, or like if they're running across the power line and they see a cat below them, they'll sit there and go because they're teasing the cat on their way to get to their next destination. So enjoy yourself. Have fun as you're doing. Enjoy what spring is bringing, because our intentions, our personalities, our joys will help us grow greater fruit, greater plants than if we're in a sour mood. Because remember, sourness brings in weeds. More fun and light brings in light. So be the light that you can be with a little bit more, because the bard is about music, poetry, myth, history, enchantment of storytelling. We are all worthy. Don't get stuck in the old negative story. Enjoy what story you can write. Because even if you're in the southern hemisphere and you're going into fall, remember that you've had a summer of writing. So what is the story you want to create for the wintertime? What is the story you want to create for the next chapters in your story? Remember, we're the authors of our book. Put a little fun in it. Because remember, it's not always fun to read a story that's dull and boring. You know, so create some enjoyment. We've got one last card here. So this is about the high princess, or the princesses. Yeah. Dyslexia. Sometimes I have to double check myself. Discernment, presence, and prophecy and vision. So who we are is going to be the gift that we can be. So remember, we're worthy of being ourselves. No matter what our story has been in the past, we can create a gift of a story of who we are if we're worthy of it and we are accepting of who we are.
That's a really good one, because we have to accept, well, we don't have to do anything, but if you don't accept who you are, you can't accept who you can become.
Exactly, because it takes risk to go down the path.
I love that game, Risk. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it does take risk to step out and be vulnerable enough to be ourselves. Because who I am and how I perceive myself is how others perceive me. And so, how am I perceiving myself? Am I perceiving myself as pretty magical and I've got some stuff I can do it? Well, yeah, that's how I'm perceiving myself. And guess what? I've got people around me who are saying, "Yep, I notice you, Natasha. Thank you for being you."
Of course you can do it. Everybody's got passion. Everybody's got hopes and desires and things that they would like to do. Who who do you think you are by denying the powers that be and the folks on the other side for you not to be your best presentation of you.
The better presentation of you, I'm going to say, because best is not, sometimes we got a headache that day and we're just not necessarily being our better. So whatever that better is for that day, the better presentation of who we are, how we perceive ourselves is how others perceive us.
That's exactly right. And however, how they perceive us has no relationship to the truth either. So you get to pick, you get to choose, you get to do whatever you want to do. It's your book. I love that expression. It's your book. It's your drama. You get to pick what's in it, and you get to pick it as exciting it's going to be, and you get to go and live that every day. And that's because there's going to come a time when your chapter is going to close and the book is going to be finished, and you just want to be able to say, I did everything the best that I could. And was I successful all the time? No, you're not supposed to be. This is a challenge.
Yep.
So take it
And that's what I talked about in my last newsletter, was about failure.
exactly.
It's just a stopping spot. It's the respot. Just it's about keep moving. It's about that vulnerability. It's about trusting that vulnerability to say, and this is the spring. I'm saying, people, that we can get better than we had it before if we have that perception and we're willing to take the risk and take the vulnerability and take the trust that we can do it. Because many of us were told to do something different than we were told before, than we were doing before. And sometimes it's going to be greater than what we think it could be if we're willing to do the work. Do the walk. It's not necessarily the work, it's the walk. Do the walk. It's about doing the walk. Keep doing the walk, because you never know.
And sometimes these things take a very, very long time to come to fruition.
It's a curvy road sometimes.
Sometimes it takes forever.
But
And
that, go ahead.
no, I was just, going to say, if you just should, because when I started doing the radio, it ended up costing me $100,000, my marriage, my house, bankruptcy, the whole thing, the whole 9 yards. But I wouldn't be here sitting here with you had I not done that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all been a joyful ride. Some of it wasn't as good as others, I will grant you, but
No,
it's been a joyful ride.
I know every curve, every angle gave me a perception to help me with the next curve and next journey that was going on. Because the story of our life is about a sentence, the next paragraph, the next chapter. Oh, wait a minute, that's the end of that book. Sequel. The next, phase 2, book 2 of my story, my life. We can always start our next book. We don't have to keep going with the same story. We can change to the next book and complete and be who that is. Kind of like for me after my mom passed away. That book was done. That series was done. It was time for me to start a whole new series.
But it
And
was
that's who I am.
but it was part of the same overall structure, and because you couldn't be doing this if you didn't have that.
Exactly. So those characters in the first story came to the second set of books and created that next story.
Exactly. So that's the way it goes, and that's the way it should be. And so believe in yourself. I like what Veronica says. She believe in yourself, ladies and gentlemen, and you can make it happen. Will it happen exactly the way you want it to in your timeline? Of course not. What fun would that be? It's got to be something that can be a surprise
Mm-hmm.
and stuff.
And you never know what that surprise may bring.
or when it's going to happen. Going to be the next time you go to your mailbox and you find a check. Going to be the next time you turn on the radio and there's a song that speaks to you and speaks to your heart. It can be anything.
And that's the thing that my dad always said to me: dress for success. And it wasn't about the clothes I was wearing. It was about putting on me so that I can be ready to meet what life was going to give me. And I'm worthy for whatever it's going to meet. Come now. I know that I'm in alignment. I know that I'm worthy of it. I know that whatever's going to happen, I can meet it. And that's a gift to be able to be there, because we are all worthy, and we can have what we really truly want, shifting the perception of what it can be. Shifting, being that vulnerable enough, because a lot of times they have what we can have, our team, but it's our perception and our fear that keeps it from being fulfilled in a complete way. So check in. Where am I stopping my life from going forward? And with that, if you're needing help, you can always get a hold of me for a session, Natasha Venter at angelicclarifications.com.
I was just going to ask you for that information. You must be psychic.
Or you can email it, Natasha at angelicclarifications.com. Make sure there's the S at the end.
Yes, indeed. And also, please, if you would be so kind as to subscribe to this channel so that it can continue to grow and I can continue to bring Natasha here on a regular basis. So just hit the subscribe button. I'm not even sure where you find it on this thing, but in any event, go to and do that, please. And
yes. And if you're watching YouTube, click like or those kinds of things, because those things, it's not about getting the numbers, it's getting the people who need to hear these messages. That's my goal, is to put this message out more so that those that are needing that little bit of support to get from here to here can hear it. And I want to expand our box. I really want to expand our box. So thank you everyone for listening, and blessings to you on your journey. Your gifts. So remember to open up the package and see what's in it for you guys to be who you're supposed to be.
It's Christmas all over again.
It's spring. Yeah. It's Easter. Happy Easter, everyone. No matter what you believe in, just know it's time to bounce into something new. Rats are about bouncing into the fertility, going and nibbling on the green of life. So...
And go have one of those chocolate eggs. They are just that's got the filling inside. Oh, they're just to die for. And they're only available this time of year. So anyway, Natasha, thank you very much for spending today.
I feel I'm gratitude.
Hey, and thanks for listening to this episode all the way to the end. Hey, pretty cool. Hey, don't forget to follow us so you can receive regular updates and new posts. And remember, take care of each other, because each other's all we've got. See you next time on My Independence Report.